Let's go back a screen. Bloop. There, I gotta go back 2 screens. Hey everybody, welcome to WaveTalkers Live. My name is Chris Mattia. My amateur radio call sign is Whiskey 6 Alpha Hotel. This is episode 49 of WaveTalkers Live. It's our holiday guide episode, or more appropriately, our practical holiday guide episode. I'm joined today by my esteemed colleagues, Dan, NR6V, and David, W0DHG. And today we're going to talk about all kinds of practical items that hams or emergency communicators may be interested in having on your list for your holiday, whatever that holiday happens to be. So let's go ahead and start off with some quick updates. Let me pull the guys off real quick, and then we will jump into some updates in our check-in. First of all, last week we asked everybody to do the portable WinLink challenge. We're going to continue that for another week. We had a bunch of people send in check-ins that you had sent us WinLink check-ins. Just send them into my call sign W6AH, and we also had a bunch of people send in check-ins and attached a photo of their station. So we'll do that for another week. Go ahead and send those in this week, and we'll review all of those next week. If you are joining us and you have access to WinLink, then go ahead and send us a WinLink check-in. Send it to all 3 of us. Our call signs are W0DHG, NR6V, W6AH, and our tactical call sign is WaveTalkers. And use the standard WinLink check-in form. We'll step through that process here in just a second. And the question for the comments section for that form is, what is one thing on your holiday list? Let me go ahead and quickly jump over to our walk up here.
And dream big, people.
Dream big, yeah. Let's jump down here into the corner, and we'll step through that process of sending a WinLink check-in. Just come over in your WinLink Express, click the new message button. It's going to spring open a new window here. Go ahead and select a template, click the little plus sign next to standard templates, and down here in the mapping GIS form section, go ahead and give that a click. And let's see, somebody is asking for the text transcripts. There we go. In the mapping GIS forms, just come down here to the bottom where it says WinLink check-in. Go ahead and give that a double click. And if the demo gods are with you, it should open up your web browser of choice. Make sure that you click on the date and time field right here. That's going to populate that field with the current date and time directly from your computer. Go ahead and click OK. Fill this out as an exercise. Let us know what band you're connecting from and what mode you're connecting from. Here is the send to. This is the place to put all 3 of our call signs. Just type them in, separate each call sign with a semicolon. And our call signs are W0DHG, NR6V, W6AH, and the tactical call sign is WaveTalkers, all one word. Come down here, fill in the your call sign, station contact information. Let us know where you're coming in from. This is your latitude and longitude that should be set in here. It should be coming in from a GPS, or it'll be the center of your grid square. If you've got that plugged in, here's the comment section. That's the place to go ahead and let us know what's one thing on your holiday list. Also, if you're here inside of the Zoom or you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook or any of the other channels, then go ahead and let us know also in the chat on that what's an item on your holiday list. Go ahead and hit the submit button, and after you do, it's going to populate all this information in here. You go ahead and post that up to the outbox, and go ahead and open the session and send it. So we'll go ahead and click start here and see what we've got coming in. It looks like we do have some check-ins coming from all over the world. So we'll check back at the end of the show and see how all of those check-ins are going. Let's jump back over to the slides. And so let's get into our holiday gift guide, or we like to call this our practical holiday gift guide. So what is going to be in this holiday guide? Well, it's all stuff that we have all purchased ourselves, and we use these items all the time. It's all stuff that we're actively using on a regular basis. So What is not in this guide? Well, items that are made of unobtainium. Those would be things like the latest and greatest transceiver. That's the whatever the hot item happens to be, whatever the latest and greatest antenna happens to be, and whatever the latest power items. Those are the three basic components of any ham radio station. Those three different items. And so there's going to be lots of sales that are going to be coming up. There'll be lots of people talking about whatever those items happen to be. You all pretty much know what's on your list for items. So we're not even going to bother going into a lot of those items here at all today. What we want you to do, though, is we want you to think about what type of operating that you want to do, that you want to focus on next year. Are those items such as you're going to focus on EmComm, you're going to focus on portable operating, maybe upgrading the station in your mobile vehicle. You want to do more WinLink work. Maybe you're really interested in nailing down near vertical incident skywave communication, or you're finally going to learn CW or get back into CW. There's a variety of different topics that you might want to take on. Maybe you're just going to jump into do it POTA finally, and you're going to start getting into being able to do those things. So what we want you to really start thinking about is, what do you need in order to support that activity? And a lot of us, when we're first getting started, I know for me, when I first got my license and I upgraded to my general license, I headed down to the local ham radio outlet. And I was like, okay, I've got all of these different choices that are out here. Really, all I need to answer is one question: which model of radio am I going to get? One on the two that I had picked out at the time, the 7300 or the 991A. And I thought, as a new ham, like, that's the most critical thing. That's absolutely what I've got to nail down. And what I ended up coming home with, I came home with an EmComm 7300. But very quickly, as I was going through the process of getting the radio and getting set up with an HF station for the first time, I realized that I didn't leave my wallet at home, and suddenly I needed a power supply in order to make that radio work. And then I also needed an antenna and an antenna analyzer, and there's all that, you could just keep going on and on with all the things. And I got a whole bunch of extra stuff. And then this is what my screen looked like. The waterfall display, you can see how many stations I was picking up when I got all of that stuff hooked up for the first time. I was not very effective at doing much of anything. It took me quite a while before I figured out what was the overall setup that was going to work for me. And one of the things that I discovered pretty early on is that I got into enjoying to do portable operation. And there was a whole different set of gear that I really needed to have to become more effective, more efficient, and to be more comfortable and have a lot more fun at operating. And so what we're going to be talking about are a lot of those types of items, the little small items that really make it very effective for you to get out and operate. And the first one is right here on screen. And I realized when I was going out doing portable operation, especially as I got involved doing emergency communications, was that I needed a way to be able to take notes, to be able to log stations and so forth. So what I did is I picked up one of these little metal portable desk units, for lack of a better term. For the rest of these, much of the items that we found, we've all found either we've purchased it through Amazon, and we'll show you like where we got it and when we got it, what the current price is and so forth. None of this is sponsored or anything like that, but these are literally the items that we use all the time. So let me switch over to my overhead cam and put, let's see, no, I want to leave me in that corner, this corner down here. I want to bring that up. So this is the item here, and then this is what it looks like in real life. So it's just a little small metal box. I have a little piece of tape on the side of it. When you open it up, inside, I keep copies of all of the forms that I need for being able to do a deployment. I keep little notepads and so forth in there. In the bottom of it, there's a little shelf. So I keep copies of like my license in here. I've got a little micro notebook that I've created little pens and pencils and so forth. And it all fits in this one little box. And so no matter where you're at, you've got a writing surface to be able to operate with. Now that's great if you're doing EmComm work, but what if you're doing a lot more portable operation? This is a little bit on the large side. So one of the other things that I find I use all the time are these little moleskin notebooks, and you can pick them up pretty cheap. Some of them I've had for a while. The ones that I like are the ones that have the little grid pattern inside, because it's very easy to draw on, to sketch out different ideas. We used this yesterday. We did a little deployment, and I was able to kind of sketch out just the contact information for the remote station. They weigh nothing. You can fit them in a pocket. I put them in all of my bags and so forth. What I've actually gone to now is I've gone to making my own little mini paper logbooks, and what they end up looking like is this. I just took a graphics program. In this case, I used Adobe Illustrator, but you can do this in pretty much any program. I went ahead and made an outside cover. Both of these, you print them out as one sheet. I'll put a PDF of this up on the WaveTalkers website, so if you're interested, you can go ahead and grab a copy of it. Inside, on the inside cover, I have a small miniature version of my license that's in there, and I just shrunk that down, put that in there. And then over on this side, the rest of the pages are all listed out with the common things that I log. And when I'm out in the field, I end up using these all the time because it has just the information that I log. And then I go and I translate it into my computer, and these things weigh basically next to nothing. And I got a couple of blank pages in the back to add some notes to. So those are the kind of basic logging tools that I'm using on a very regular basis. Now, aside from having something to log with, you oftentimes want to have something to put your gear in. And this has been an ongoing kind of project for me for a number of years, is trying to find those ideal bags or organizational structures for me to be able to use. And I recently acquired from a fellow ham a KX3 system, and it's a lot of fun to be able to operate it portable. And I thought, oh, it would be great to be able to get one of the like Elecraft bags, but they're A, really expensive, and B, they're not available at all. So I did some poking around on Amazon. I found these, and it's a 4 set of these bags. So if you saw last week's episode, you saw the 705 bag that I have, and I've got them all right here. I can show them. They come in a 4-pack. These are about $60. Let me turn off the overhead, and you can kind of get a quick sense. This is the KX3 bag that I'm using. It's got room for the radio, the pan adapter, a little small battery, all of the cabling that's needed up in the front and on the top. And then there's this extra little pouch up here on the top of all of these bags. And I've got room for additional items such as antennas or cabling or so forth that is all in here. It's ready to go. This is the kind of considered the large bag of the group that's in that set. This one right here is the 705 bag that I use, and this one has just a little bit more space. If I open this up, this will actually fit the 12 amp hour battery in the front, the tuner, the 705, some more cabling that goes in here, more cabling in that top pocket, and then it also has the top pouch for keeping a variety of items in here. One of the things I also keep in here is a little pair of wired earbuds. When you're out in the field, making sure you've got wired earbuds or headphones, so you can really hear your station, hear your radio, is a really nice thing. So this is the extra large one. That's the large. And then I've also got, pull these off of here so it's a little easier to see. This one's the medium size one, so you can just get a sense of like real world what fits in these things. This is a Pactor modem that's in here. There's the signal link and then the cabling that goes with it. This bag also has up here in the top, it's got the little GPS dongle. So this is like my digital bag for when I'm doing WinLink. I've got all of the different connection components in here. So that's that one. And then it also, in that whole set, has a little extra small one, and this one only has one pocket in it, but it's big enough to put like SDRs, a Raspberry Pi, those sorts of things all in there. So really, it makes it a lot easier to be able to organize all of your gear. The next thing when it comes to organizing your gear, a lot of you who have seen different episodes of the show know I'm a big fan of these packing cubes, and the search term that you want to use for those is packing cubes. There's a variety of different companies that are out there that make them. Amazon makes their own knockoff ones now at this point. The original set that I got were all from eBags. And a lot of people have asked going, hey, Chris, how come a lot of the bags that you have are like pink and green and like all of these weird colors? And the answer to that is quite simple. Like if you look at this one here, the blue one, this is the same set of bags. That set of 3 bags is $29. But if you look and you click on the pink one that's there, that one's only $16. So I'm cheap. I've bought a bunch of the whatever the cheap color of the day happens to be, and I go ahead and just get those. One of the other little additions that I do a lot, and we'll talk about gaff tape in a little while, is on the handle of each one, I just put a fold of gaff tape over, and then I'm able to list some of the major items that are in here. So when I've got these all in my bag, it's really easy to see which of the sub bags has the smaller kit of items that I'm looking for. So these are super helpful for being able to do those sorts of things with. The next item that I've got on the holiday guide here are Velcro one wraps, and these are just amazing. You get them in packs of basically 100. If you buy them from places like Amazon, they're not very expensive. It's usually like 2 rolls of these in one, and just pretty much every wire, every cable that I have, these go on there. They also go on my coax. I'll put multiple one wraps on a piece of coax to help hold it together when it's all coiled up. And then when that antenna is deployed, because the one wraps are on there, it's really easy to attach the coax or any of the other wires to the mast or to whatever structure that you've got going on, in order to make sure that you're guiding all of the cabling around. So these are super helpful. Every time I get a new device, a new one wrap goes on every cable that goes in there, and they just live there. Let's see, what's next on the list? Next on the list, is label tape. Now, labels, it's been a long time since I bought a label machine, and I found out that the one that I use is no longer available on Amazon. So the important thing is not necessarily which model to get, but having a labeler and having a common set of colored labels that you can load in there. You can type the names of the items on your and put it on your gear, label your gear, make sure it's something you can quickly identify and see. I tend to always use these nice big orange labels, and get yourself, if you poke around on Amazon or other places, you'll find the little cartridges, and a lot of times you'll find these packs where you can get multiple of the cartridges fairly cheap in order to get those to come up. I see a question somebody has in here. Why do you have both Elecraft KX3 and the 705? Because it's fun, because it's a lot of fun to be able to go out and do that and operate. And I had borrowed the KX3 for about a year from the friend of mine who I got it from, and then ended up giving it back. I got the 705, and then I thought, I really enjoyed playing with the KX3 quite a bit. So I have both. And also because EmComm 2 is one and 1 is none. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so these P-Touches are absolutely great. They're by Brother is the company that makes them, and they're excellent for being able to keep your gear really neat and organized. Now, what if you don't want to go this route and get a whole P-Touch? You want to go a little bit cheaper? Well, this is one of my secret weapons that I use for pretty much everything, and it's gaff tape, or gaffer's tape. It's used in the film industry quite a bit. It's kind of like duct tape, only way better. It's a cloth backed tape. You also see it as called hockey tape. So a lot of hockey sticks will be wrapped up in that. You can find it in a lot of like sporting goods sections as hockey tape. But you can find it online. It's not cheap. It's about $20 a roll for this stuff. But you can notice that a lot of even the bags that I use where I have the label on them, that's done in gaff tape. Gaff tape is great for being able to quickly tack down cables if you're deploying somewhere and you really don't want other people tripping over the cables around there. You can use a little tiny bit of this to hold down. It doesn't leave sticky residue on things. It's very easy to pull some off and simply tear it by hand. You really don't need any additional tools or anything. It's excellent stuff to be able to work with. So if you don't have any, this is just really great stuff. Also on the tape side, and I don't have any more of this, I need to get some more. This is that stretch and seal tape. And what you use this for is making sure that your cables are waterproof, your coax connectors, where your coax goes into your antenna. This is it's a rubberized tape, and you just wrap it around, it stretches, and it creates a nice seal. It doesn't have any adhesive on it at all. It sticks to itself, so it's very easy to get it back off, and it leaves your connections all waterproof. It's a lot nicer to use than using electrical tape, and it's more waterproof, although electrical tape also works, and electrical tape comes in multiple colors. I'm a big fan of using multiple colors to be able to identify different gear and so forth. As you're thinking about your cabling that you've got to make sure that everything's nice and waterproof, you also want to make sure that your cabling is all made, or your wires are all kept in good shape. And so things like Deoxit is available as just a spray. You can get it as a paint-on product, and you can also get it in these little small tubes. This is really good. It's kind of like electrical WD-40 that doesn't leave all of the residues and things on it. It helps to keep everything nice and clean and in good electrical working conditions. So I always spray down my coax connections and different electrical components with this stuff to help waterproof it and keep it in good shape. Anytime I deploy, say, like the buddy pole or one of the chameleon antennas, I'll make sure that I spray down all of the connectors to make sure that they stay in good working order. So I spent about 12 years living on my boat, and I had to do a lot of wiring on board. This is the soldering iron that I picked up and I used on board. This is actually a new one that I picked up finally last year. The last one finally gave up the ghost on me. But this is a butane soldering iron. It's by Weller. It comes with a variety of different tips. This is the little blowtorch tip that's in here. You can just refill the back of it here with a standard butane filler, and you just simply turn it on, click the little thing a few times, and if it's all charged up, it'll light and you're able to solder with it. It's got a variety of tips that are in here in order to make it work properly for you. I also keep I do a lot of sewing from living on board with the sewing machine, and so I just have some sewing bobbins, and I wind my solder onto the sewing bobbins so that I've got it here and it fits all in the case. And so I have a little portable soldering kit that you're able to use kind of anywhere that you need to, and all of the different tips to do things. These come also with the tips to use as a hot knife, to use the little blowtorch, which works really well for doing heat shrink, and then a couple of different soldering tips, and you can order additional soldering tips online. This is a little heat baffle, so you can put this on with the little torch tip, and it will redirect the heat so that it comes up, and these are great for doing heat shrink as well. Really like this kit. I've used this basic kit now for a lot of years, and it's kind of always with me for what I'm doing. On the theme of repairing and doing cable making, if I was going to add one item to my list For cable making, it would be the tri-crimp. And there are some other different brands of these. This happens to be the brand that I ended up picking up. It's got the jaws are replaceable, and they do have additional inserts that you can put in the jaws, so you can crimp a variety of other different types of cables as well. Mostly I leave the power pole tips in here because that's mostly the types of tips that I'm using. I did pick up one of the multi-pack Power by PowerWorks. This is the tips, and I've had to refill this kit a few times now. But it's got the 3 different sizes of the power pole tips on it, and then a variety of the other tips. So we've talked about this in some of the other episodes as well. This is also available, but make sure you get actual Anderson power poles. Don't get the knockoff ones, because your experience is going to vary quite a bit when you do use them. Move that out of the way. Let's see what's next on the list. Once you have your crimper, you're able to do all kinds of cool things, and you're then like saving money, like saving a lot of money. So most of these power adapters are all ones that I've now made myself. All you need to do is get the wire. You learn how to crimp on the power pole connectors. And then, for instance, like the 12-volt socket and 12-volt plug connectors, I just buy those tips now on Amazon for like $2 or $3. They come as a 2-pack. You get both of them. Just unsolder the little garbage wires that come with it, solder on some better wires onto it, crimp power poles onto it, and you've got a different adapter there. If you buy these just online, you can end up spending about $20 or $30 per adapter. You can make them yourself for just a couple of bucks. So they work really well for doing those things. Another thing that once you start getting into really making your own wires and making your own connectors that you might get into is taking and making some modifications to, say, a Go box or your vehicle, or maybe in your ham shack, you want to insert power poles into a bunch of different places. PowerWorks and a couple of other manufacturers make a variety of these through hull connectors or panel connectors, I guess they're called. And so when I made my Go box, which I've shown a few times on here in the lid, this is just a plastic ammo box. I put a variety of these connectors up here on the top of these. So I've got power pole connectors up here. I've got a 12-volt socket. I've got USB connections, and all of these are all available. That's what you're looking for, are the panel ports. They have them on Amazon. That's where I ended up buying many of mine, just because I was able to save a little bit on the shipping. PowerWorks and other manufacturers all sell them on their website, as well as all of the big ham companies as well. And so that's those. Let's see what else. So we're talking about making some modifications to things. One of the things that I went through and I modified for all of my gear is all of my HTs. I converted them all over to BNC connectors, and you can find little BNC connectors. It's a great little stocking stuffer. Just screw it into the SMA connector. The SMAs are really nice. The problem with them is every time you're taking your antenna on and off, you're putting more strain on that connection down inside of your radio. By putting a little BNC adapter on here, it allows you to very quickly switch which antenna that you're operating with. And if you're traveling, you don't want to oftentimes travel with your antenna attached. You want to have that detached off of your radio. So every time you change that, you're putting strain on that. Now, what's a way that you can use some cheap ways of being able to travel with your gear? Well, I made some of these. It's just a piece of PVC, and I've got just little end caps on each end, and I write on there what antenna is in here, what it is, and then it says open this end. You just take the little connection off, and you can access the antenna that's in here. I've mentioned previously that on this particular antenna that I've used these quite a bit, but they tend to drop pretty easily, and they bend at these locations. So I end up not bought a lot of these to replace anymore, and I've gone with a few others at this point. But this is a great way to be able to get through security as well, and protect your antennas when you are traveling. Another thing that antenna-wise that you may want to consider making sure you have, this is oftentimes for new hams, this is usually one of the first upgrades that a lot of new hams will do, and that's getting a little small mag mount antenna, especially if you're going to try and operate mobile, because if you can get your antenna outside of your vehicle, it's going to work a heck of a lot better. I use this one whenever I'm traveling because the antenna can come off of the little mag mount connection. It's got a little small magnet on the bottom, so it's really small and compact. And then I've got another one of those PVC tubes to be able to stick the little small whip in there, and it's easy to be able to pop this on, say, a rental car. It also lives in my go bag as well, so if I get deployed and we need to set up an antenna, you can actually mount this onto a filing cabinet or anything metal. You can put it on any vehicle. You can oftentimes put it on metal fence rails in order to then create your ground plane and then be able to operate and get a little bit better distance. So it's a really nice little addition. And there's a lot of different manufacturers that make these. You don't have to get this particular version in order to have something that's effective. Since we're talking about antennas and we're talking about connections, this is a ferrite core. This is one that Oliver K6OLI had suggested, and it's a great big one. It's about this big. It's great for being able to put a couple of turns of the wire through as you clamp it on. So I've got several of these that I have on a lot of the power cables and connectors that I have on a lot of my radios, so that it helps cut down the RFI that gets back into the radio and makes your signals a lot better. Next up, this is one of my everyday carry items that I have with me just all the time. It's a little tiny Coast flashlight. It's just got one, I think this one's got a AA battery in it, just one push button on the back in order to light it up. One of the things that I really like about this is the clip on it. It clips directly into your pocket, so it's easy to have with you. The clip also works on your hat, so it instantly becomes a headlamp, and you don't have to have multiple different devices. I find I use this all the time when I'm operating, especially if I end up operating at night and I've got to be able to get back, or it's just getting to be dusk and I got to make sure that I've got all of the different gear that I have. If I'm operating inside of a location or setting up to do support inside of a location, oftentimes we're having to crawl under tables, run wires, and all kind of stuff like that. Being able to add additional light is always a good idea. I've had 4 of these now at this point. I think I've lost 2, so there's 2 more floating around out there. But I use these literally every single day. I really like them, and so I'll just keep getting those as I need to. Next item on the list, since we're talking about safety, having some surveyor's tape, some of that orange surveyor's tape, tie it on the guy lines, tie it on if you're out doing a POTA activation, you've got a wire antenna set up, especially if there's any chance that other members of the public are going to be wandering by there. You want to flag those guy lines, flag your antennas, flag all the different wires that are set out to make it so that other people are not going to walk into those. It's a really simple little thing to make sure that you've got in your kit with you all the time. Likewise, on that, when we're talking about safety, this is one that, and I think it was David who suggested this one, W0DHG, is the tennis balls. So I picked up a bag of tennis balls, and what you do with these is literally take the stakes for your antennas, cut a little small X in the tennis ball, give it a squeeze, and you can then slide the tennis ball over top of your tent stake. It gives a nice visual for anybody who's wandering around, so they can see exactly where that tent stake is. And it also, especially when you add the flagging tapes on the guy lines, excuse me, it really helps increase the visibility that's there. When you're talking about supporting other people, let's say you get deployed at a shelter or some other location, or you're just in your shack and you've got a lot of equipment that you need to charge. Having these multi-chargers This one's by Anchor. I have a lot of products that I get that are the Anchor brand. It's just one AC plug that comes out of it, and then a variety of different USB ports. Many of them are listed as the IQ ports. Those are all ones that are charging ports, and so it helps you charge a variety of different gear. It's really nice if you're deployed at a shelter or some location where you're having to interact with other people. You've got power that you've run for your radio. Being able to plug something like this in, set it out there so that other folks, as they're coming by, they want to be able to charge their cell phone or something. You've got some open ports for them to be able to do that. And you can do that off of one outlet to charge multiple devices. Likewise, thinking about being kind to others, another item that is oftentimes overlooked, and it's something that we all tend to deal with, are, where'd mine go? Wall warts. So with a lot of the devices we have, you end up with this big transformer that you have to plug in, and you're not able to plug more than one into the end outlet on a power strip. And so these short little extension cords, you can oftentimes get them in like 10 packs, are absolutely amazing. You just simply plug in that big giant wall wart into one side, and then you're only taking up one outlet in the power strip. And a lot of people will be a lot more likely to allow you to add on to one more device onto a power strip if you're not going to take up all of the multiple ports on that. Likewise, I'll oftentimes keep some small short extension cords, maybe 10 feet or up to 15 feet or so. And I get these cube taps for the end of them. And this is just a 3-way outlet that plugs just into the end of the power cord, and then it allows for additional distribution of that power as needed. Oftentimes, if you're deployed in an emergency location where there is limited power, usually it's 1 or 2 outlets that are off of that device. And if you're able to distribute that power to a better location and split it out, people are going to be a lot happier with you for being able to do those and help other people out. Next up on the list, talking about helping other people, this is the portable gateway that many of us are using now. So a lot of people have asked, what are you using for your WinLink gateway, for your WinLink RMS gateway? And it's these. Notice the specs on this is not very much. This is it's a 4 gigs of RAM. It's 64 gigs of internal storage. I have a couple of these. This is my this is number 2, so this is the backup unit. My primary gateway is number 1. It also is running on one of these, and these are nice because on the front of it you've got a couple of USB ports. You've got a headphone port for speakers if you need to. You get a USB port on the side, and then when you come around to the back, you have a hardwired Ethernet port on here. Once you get if you get access to the internet. You also have an HDMI port. You've got 2 of those actually, so you can run external monitors off of that. Another USB port on the back, and then this barrel connector here for power. These actually run on 12 volts, so it's very easy to just make a simple little adapter, power poles on one side, barrel on the other side, and you can operate this little unit here just on 12 volts. Likewise, this is one of the most expensive items on the overall list here. This is the display that I use with the solar powered gateway. It's just a really cheap monitor, super thin. It's about $170. Keep an eye on these on Amazon though, because they go on sale for sometimes as low as about $120, $130. Then they go back up. So the price on these really is quite variable. There's also a couple of different models of these. The ones that I tend to get are the 13-inch ones because they're a little bit smaller. They fit in the little small Pelican-like cases that you can pick up from like Harbor Freight that are nice and cheap. But one thing to keep in mind is on some of these, they have a USB, or not a USB, a HDMI micro port. Others have a full-size HDMI port, and they're all powered via USB-C. So you can power these off of your computer or off of a 12-volt device that then has a USB-C adapter on it. And then make sure you get one that either you have the correct cable that has an adapter to regular HDMI, but you can just simply then plug this in. And so there's a whole setup for a gateway, and you can use whatever keyboard and mouse that you have access to. But these are quite nice to be able to use. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, this device. So if you've been watching the show, you know that I use the Microsoft Surface Go, and it's a nice little device. However, Microsoft, in all of their wisdom, has created this weird power connector for it, and it kind of sort of works pretty well. But one of the nice things is they do make these little 12-volt plug connectors, and they're pretty cheap. They're only about $20. And you can pick these up on Amazon to power your device. So make sure whatever device that you're taking out in the field with you for either for logging or operating with, if you're operating digital, make sure you have some way of powering that device while you're in the field. So you're not just relying on the internal battery. An adapter like this is really slick, and for different laptops, and many laptops require at least 17 volts. So it's a little harder to be able to pull that off with the batteries that we have. But the Surface Go's can run off of 12 volts as well. Likewise, these little multi-port adapters, again, this one's by Anker. The Surface Go only has one USB-C port on it. So in order to get access to the older style USB-A ports, which much of the gear, the signal links and so forth, all use those. Having some additional USB-C ports, you can actually charge off of using this by plugging in a USB-C device into or USB-C power into this device in order to be able to charge your Surface and operate multiple gear with it. One of the things with these adapters, though, if you're working with a Surface, you want to make sure that you add little ferrite beads, as many as you can fit on that little cable, in order to make sure that you're not going to get digital noise in your radio and in the computer back and forth, and that those should work pretty well. So you get deployed, you're working all day long, you're working all night long, and suddenly you get a break for a few hours and it's time for you to get some sleep. How do you pull that off? If it is in the middle of the day. This is a great little stocking stuffer. I was doing a gig where I was having to do night shift for quite a while, and I picked up some of these sleep masks, and this is the ones that I actually picked up several different versions of them. These are the ones that I tend to use a lot when I have to work night shift and I've got to sleep during the day. If you're deployed somewhere or you're out operating, you need to take a break for a while, these are great to be able to have. And likewise, not just being able to shade your eyes so that you're able to get some sleep, but having some earplugs that work really well so that you can get some peace and quiet and get a little bit of sleep and catch up to keep supporting whatever group, whatever shared agency that you're working with. So you get up, you're nice and refreshed. Suddenly it's time to be able to deploy that next antenna. If you watched our show last week, you saw me use one of these. This is the Arborist Throw Weight. It's by a company called Weaver, the ones that I use. I actually have the 14 ounce, but they come in 12 ounce and 16 ounce as well. Find one that's appropriate for the weight that you like to throw. Any of them will work. They've got this really nice stainless steel ring on them. They've got a good heft to them. They're very easy to throw. For throw line, they do come as a kit. You can get them as a kit where it has the throw weight and the throw line all together. Usually when you find those, the line is polypropylene, though, as opposed to the line that I'm using is the type of line is called Dyneema. And let me see if I can get the which mouse is it? It's this mouse over here. This is the word right here, Dyneema. That's the type of material that the line is actually made from. And there's other ones that are available. When I looked up yesterday, there were some of these available today. They're showing as unavailable. So the type of line is more important than the specific brand or the specific item. This is really slippery. It's really thin stuff. Notice I'm using 180 feet of it in order to make sure I've got plenty of room to be able to throw the weight up in the tree, get it all the way back down to the ground. So even though you may only need a short little bit of a short little height, you remember to double the length of the line that you have. The other item that I have with this is the throw cube, and it's also by the company Weaver is the one that I have. These are the ones you saw in last week's episode where I was able to quickly to open this up. All of the line flakes inside of it, where you just drop the line into it, and then when you throw it, the line comes out free. It folds up nice and small. This is what the entire thing looks like when it's all packed up. It's just a nice little small package, and this has all the line in it and the throw weight as well. So it ends up being a really nice item, especially if you live in an area where you're deploying wire antennas up in trees, or you're getting lines up in trees. This is a super helpful tool to be able to have in your arsenal of tricks. With that, let me kick it over to Dan to see what some of the items that you have on your list.
All righty. I was just making a change here and got caught midstream. Hold on one second. Okay. I did mine a little differently than Chris. I sort of organized mine by price. And some of these are just fun little deals. And we'll start with this guy. We've got a guy in our Aries group and our ACS group who is kind of the gadget guy. I think everybody's group has one of those. And he comes up with all kinds of stuff. A lot of it is questionable. This one seemed like a real gimmick, but he's given one to each of us at one time or another. And we all kind of like it. It's simply a little LED chip that plugs into a USB port. So anywhere you've got a USB port, you potentially have a light. And they're quite bright, real easy to use. And as you can see, you get 10 of them for $6.69. So pretty cheap little way to go. My next item is from Harbor Freight, and hopefully many of you have a Harbor Freight in your area. This is kind of like a Pelican case, only much more reasonably priced. They're pretty beefy, and this is the smallest version, $15. You can get them very often for around $10 on sale, and they are pretty beefy. So they'll protect your item. The small size, I have my Nano VNA in it. I keep my antenna analyzer in one. They make a bunch of different sizes. I can show you some other ones. Other sizes, other colors that are available at varying different prices. And again, if you can get these on sale, they're even more reasonably priced, but compared to a Pelican case, they're dramatically cheaper. Next thing is, if you work on a laptop outdoors, you probably have struggled to see the screen. And this is a simple little tent, desk-sized tent that you can put your laptop in and operate it. And it works quite well. And as you can see in the upper left corner there, it has a little carrying bag. It folds up, and it takes a little practice to fold it. But once you get it, it folds quite easily. And they have different sizes, but the small size for $8 is perfect for a laptop tent. For WinLink and other uses, having a GPS dongle in your connected to your laptop will allow you, when you're operating remotely, to have an accurate GPS location at anywhere you go. And this one is one I've used. You can see I've bought 3 of them. There are several choices in the same price range, but this one's been quite good. And literally, you just plug it into your laptop USB port and then go into WinLink in the GPS configuration page, give it the port number. You'll have to go into your control panel to learn which port number was assigned, but you just tell WinLink what port number to find it on, and it will automatically update your GPS location. Another really cool item from Harbor Freight here is ammo cans. You can get these at surplus stores, but it's pretty hard to beat Harbor Freight's price. Again, these can be had for $12, $13 on sale. But this is a 50 caliber size, and I can show you here. I've made one into a go box. Really simple. You got a speaker. I know the lighting's horrible. Radio. And I've got a cigarette lighter connector. I put a fan in, so I've got a fan switch and a couple of fuses. And they make really good single radio go boxes. They're easy to work with, and you can't beat the price. We talk a lot about different interfaces for using WinLink and other digital modes. We've always been sort of strong on the signal link, but this is a fairly recent addition called the DigiRig. And there are a few things I like about the DigiRig. First of all, it's hard to tell there by this picture, but it's about the size of your thumb. It's very small. And so I have another ammo can kit with a Yaesu FT8800 and a DigiRig and a speaker, and that's my portable gateway. So very handy for that. The other thing that's nice about this is it's very, very configurable. Inside the DigiRig are these jumper pads, and they come configured depending on what you want. You can tell him what you're going to do, and he'll configure it for you, but you can change it so that different cat control methods, or if you're going to use this for a repeater, like an all-star repeater, you just solder or scrape the jumpers for your configuration. So it's very configurable. He's constantly adding new cables for interface cables. He has Yaesu, Zygu, a bunch of the different HF rigs. It does work if you're going to do like my Yaesu 8800 with a digital port on the back. It only connects, it uses one 3.5 millimeter to a mini DIN connector for the push to talk and audio in and out. Very minimal connections. Then, of course, a USB connection to go to your laptop. Next thing is I learned about this at an Aries Northeast meeting. Several people were using it. This is a really cool laptop stand, and it's very configurable. You can see the legs are adjustable, so you can raise it, lower it, put it in a bunch of different configurations. Again, here's my setup here. Oops, here we go. So I've got my keyboard down below. I've got my radio up above. So if you're working, particularly if you're working in a command trailer or an EOC and you don't have a lot of desk space, this basically lets you double up your desk space. Very, very cool item. And then it folds down flat, so it stores in a relatively small area. Chris showed you a mag mount antenna, and I didn't want to duplicate, but this is one that I've used a lot, and it really is an excellent antenna. Unfortunately, the price has gone way up in the last year. I think I paid $20 for it last time I bought one, but it's a good dual band mag mount antenna. We've run them through antenna analyzers, and they actually come tuned very nicely for the 2 meter and 70 centimeter ham bands, and good strong magnet. Really a nice antenna. I have 3 of them and use it. Matter of fact, I've got them on my truck, and I've got NMO mounts on the headache rack on the back of my truck, but the mag mounts work so well, I haven't had a lot of motivation to finish wiring in the NMO mounts. So nice way to go there. Another item here is, this is a no-name lithium iron phosphate battery, but at $39 for 12 amp hours, it's quite a good deal. And I have one. It works well. I haven't had it a long time, so I can't tell you about longevity. But, you know, with lithium iron phosphate batteries, there are a bunch of advantages. First of all, they're very light, about a third of the equivalent lead acid battery. But it goes even farther than that, because the discharge profile on a lithium iron phosphate battery is very flat. So you start out at like 14.3 volts on a fully charged battery, and it'll drop down to around 14 volts, 13.9, and it will hold that through about 90% of its discharge. So if you think about it, you may only get 20% discharge on a lead acid battery before the voltage drops below what your radio requires. So these are going to power your radio at full power for a lot longer. So in reality, you could probably replace a 20 amp hour lead acid battery with a 12 amp hour lithium iron phosphate and get the same or better performance. Plus, these have multi-thousand, 2,000-3,000 charge discharge cycles, whereas a lead acid type battery is going to probably be more in the 500 range. So really a good deal. And now that the prices are dropping, really a great deal. Talking about antennas, we've talked, I think, on this WaveTalkers show about the EmComm antennas. You know, these are not the greatest antennas in the world. You can get more gain, you can get a better antenna, but for about $40, they perform extremely well. And he ships them with the ladder line antenna that goes inside the tube, and he sends you the 2 caps, the one at the bottom with the SO239 and a regular cap at the top, and he has you go to Lowe's and buy the schedule, I think it's schedule 200 pipe, because it saves on shipping and it's readily available. These antennas probably have got more study in them than any antenna around. Ed Fong is a professor of electronic engineering at Cal State Santa Cruz, or UC Santa Cruz rather. And he's had several of his students do master's theses on these antennas. They've even studied PVC to determine what effect it has on the antenna. And what they found is that the thicker Schedule 40 PVC actually changes the frequency range of the antenna. So he recommends using the Schedule 200, which is the thin non-pressure side of your sprinkler system. And like I say, it's readily available at Lowe's. But a really good antenna. He will tune it for you. For instance, I bought one that's 2 meters in GMRS. He has them in 2 meters. I actually think I put a price sheet here. So yeah, he's got it in a variety. He's got a tri-band. He has the dual band. He has the dual band as a roll up. We've tried the Ed Fong versus the N9TAX, and kind of like the N9TAX better. I think David's going to talk about that. But this does come. He has a 220 version, and people like them. And I've got half a dozen of them in various places. And other than having one where the center conductor came loose, and obviously it didn't work very well, I've had great luck with those. We talked a little bit about the Nano VNA on another session. There are a bunch of different versions of this, but for an entry-level way to test SWR, measure the length of an unknown length of cable, find the spot where there's a fault in your cable, and a million other things. This is really quite the low price way to do this. This model I show here is the latest upgrade model. It has a 4-inch screen, so it's a little easier to read. It does not have quite as wide a frequency range as some of the more expensive ones. I think some of those go up to 3 gigahertz, but for what most hams are doing, this will suffice. You can connect these to your laptop for a bigger screen or to save your measurements. And this one comes with the cables. It comes with the calibration connections. Just a nice deal for under $90. One thing I've used a bunch of, and again, we'll go back to Harbor Freight. They make a 20-foot flagpole, and it's not the strongest thing in the world, but for temporary use, they work great. And they fold down relatively small. They're lightweight. I built a mount to go into the hitch receiver on my truck. I bought a front mount hitch receiver that was designed specifically for my truck. They're available for most trucks. And so I can mount this into that adapter that I built and use it portably and get my antenna up 20 feet quite easily. And the one thing that I've had issues with on this is the twist lock connectors tend to get stuck if they get wet. So what I do on mine is I either put a radiator hose clamp around the smaller section and tighten it so it won't drop down any lower. Or if I'm doing something where directionality is important, because with the radiator clamp, the mass can still turn, I just drill and put a pin through. I worry a little bit that weakens it, but it does lock it in so that, for instance, if you were to put up a mesh dish and want to aim that, you can do that. So quite a good deal. And like I say, I've got about a half a dozen of those. A couple of them in semi-permanent mounts, and then I have a couple of them that I carry with me when I deploy. Okay. Chris said we weren't going to talk about radios, but I'm going to break the rules a little bit here. This is the radio that I use primarily for HF. It's called the Xiegu G90. And it's under $450. So for an entry-level radio, for somebody getting into HF, it's only 20 watts. But other than that, it's a pretty full-featured radio. It does HF and 6 meters, and it's worked great for me. I've made over 1,500 FT8 contacts with this radio. From really all over the world. I have, I think, every state except for Maine, and I think one other, most continents. It's just a really good radio. One of the things with Xiegu that's a knock on them has been that they come out with a new model and they stop supporting with firmware upgrades the old models. They seem to be changing that with the G90. They're still updating it, and they have come up with some really good updates on this. They seem to be listening to their customers, and it's been a really good radio for me. I've got one other item, but I think I'm going to hold off on it and hold it till the end. Dave and Chris and I talked about this item and nobody prepared it, so I threw it together, but we talked about using that at the end. So I think I'll send it back to Chris. No audio, Chris.
Now I'm unmuted.
No.
There we are. Real quick, I wanted to bring up while Dan's still here, these are a couple of the items that he showed, and I've got them on screen. So this is that little tiny USB light, and you literally just plug it into a USB port, and these three little dots that you see here are little small LEDs. So it's a really nice little addition to be able to have. I also wanted to give you a sense. I know Dan talked about the DigiRig, and I've got one of these. This is what I'm using with the KX3 to operate digital. And I wanted to give you a sense of really how tiny this thing is. These are the cables that that you can get with it when you order it for the particular radio that you want to operate with. But there it is next to a standard roll of electrical tape, just to give you a size comparison, and also next to an HT. I mean, these things are super tiny, and Dan's right. They work remarkably well. I've had, it took me a little bit to figure out how to get it to operate with the radio when I first got it in, but it really works remarkably well for being able to do that. So,
and the cables that he offers are really nicely made cables. They have ferrites built in, and they're really nicely done.
So with that, let's kick it over to W0DHG because he has some items as well. Let me replace the spotlight and go ahead.
All righty. Well, we're going to do a short list because we're already over the 2-hour mark. But I have a couple items that the other guys didn't cover. I had a whole bunch of items that the guys did cover. One of the things that I have here is this great screwdriver kit. And if you're working with electronics, if you're actually open up the covers and stuff. This covers Torx and Tri-Wing and Phillips and all the other, and this was a great thing that I found along the way. We have talked about this in the past. We've got my drive over. Can't really see it on the screen here. Mast holder. This works with the Harbor Freight antennas. If you don't have a trailer hitch mount, or if you want to put something up really quickly, this is just a great way to have something that you can put your antenna in and put your car tire on, and it's solid once you put that on there. It's not going anywhere. You can put it up in the air. When I use the Harbor Freight antennas with that, or the Harbor Freight flagpoles, I don't even worry about guying the thing. It's just there. It's solid, and it just works great. The other thing, when you're out in the field, as EmComm operators, we work day and night, and I found these great headlamps. This is kind of the wide version. So when you turn this on, you get a wide light instead of just a narrow beam. And this one also has the narrow beam. And I've kind of converted a lot of the stuff that I do to these wide ones, because you're not just looking at a spot where you point your head, you're looking in front of you, and everything in front of you is lit up and good to go. I know Chris did talk about these, these little Velcro ties, and they do work great. And actually, this is a size bigger than Chris talked about. I found these bigger ones. This is actually a full 2 feet long, as you can see here, and they're almost an inch wide. And they're not cheap like the 100 pack for $10. These are, I think these are like 4 for about $6. But every 100-foot hank of coax or extension cord I have has one of those on there, and it just makes it really easy to wind it all up, put it away, and have it ready to go when you're ready to use it next time. Let me switch over here. A couple little items that I'll just throw in again because we're running kind of long. At the dollar store or at your Michael's or Joann's, you can get these little glow sticks. I do use paracord that has reflective tape in it for any antenna that I put up that I'm going to guy if we're going to be working overnight. But I will also throw up a couple of these glow things on them at the points where they're in the ground with stakes, or even along the antenna itself, depending on whether you need a guide or not. These will work overnight. They'll show up. You can see them whether you have a flashlight or not. And it's just a good way to keep safe at your deployments. We did talk about the N9 tax. This is the Ed Fong roll-up. And I've used this a bunch of times. It works really well. It's nice that he'll sell, just like the N9 tax, he'll sell extensions. So I got this with a BNC connector, and then I got the extra extension here. Again, it goes to BNC, and then he'll sell you the converters to go to a UHF VHF radio. Trusty Leatherman. This is a new model that came out. I like this model. You can get them at Costco right now for about $40. And the reason I really like this new model, unlike a lot of the earlier brands or the earlier models, is this actually has spring activated. So if you're using it to grab stuff, it'll open and close itself on its own. And I don't want to take much more of your afternoon up. I've got 6 family inside, and I'm going to have to get out of here. But that's my short list. Mostly Chris and Dan kind of covered the other things I wanted to talk about anyways. So I think we've given you guys a pretty good list of holiday ideas and things that you might find in your stocking or under the tree or menorah this holiday. Back to Chris.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Let's do one quick check of our check-ins real quick. So if you haven't had a chance to send in your WinLink check-in, go ahead and do that real quick. I've been checking along during the show, and so I've downloaded most of them at this point, but I'll do one more quick check to see if any up. I see we got one more coming in here from the Philippines. Hey, thanks for joining us from over there. We'll go ahead and download that one, and then we'll go ahead and map that out. So I'll go ahead and close this window. Again, you got to make sure that you receive the WinLink forms, and it has to be one of the forms that is a mappable form. If you go back to the beginning and you watch that intro portion, when we clicked on the templates and we clicked on the ones that were all of the mappable forms, that's one of these. So you just click on the little globe icon, and since I've received these, I'm going to go ahead and select the WinLink check-in form. I'll click the display map option, bring that up. We'll go ahead and blast that out to full screen so we can see the whole planet and have a look. It looks like we've got Bill joining us here from Hawaii. Thanks for joining us over there, and aloha to you. We've got Terry down in New Zealand joining us. Looks like a few folks coming in from the Philippines over there. So thanks for joining us over there. We've got Roland joining us from Germany, Franz, and another operator over there from Austria as well. So thank you very much for joining us as well. Let's go ahead and zoom into North America. I'll go ahead and click the zoom in button a few times. Hold down the right mouse button and then click and drag in order to reposition the map. We've got our friend up here in Canada, Victor Echo 3 Yankee X-Ray, joining us. Hey, how's it going up there? We've got our friend joining us from Bangor, Maine, up there. So thanks a lot for joining us. A few folks here in it's like in the Carolinas joining us, and down here in Florida, John over here near Houston, King over there in the central portion of the state. Some other operators in here in the northeast of Texas. Some folks joining us up here in Michigan and Iowa. Thanks for joining us from up in there. Up here in Idaho, a few operators up there. Some folks up here in the Pacific Northwest, up in the Seattle area. Looks like Bill up there. Some folks down here in Oregon, and then all throughout California and the Southwest. A few folks that are joining us in Nevada, and over here looks like maybe in Arizona, right over on the border in California. And let me go ahead and zoom into Southern California just a little bit. We've got kind of a tight grouping of folks that usually join us all throughout the Los Angeles area. make sure everybody is showing up on the map. So you're able to see that you, if you sent in a check-in, you're able to get that in. So thank you very much for checking in. It's always great to test out your equipment and make sure everything is working. We love seeing that all of you are joining us each week. Let me go ahead and bring the guys back up to screen, and we'll go around for our little wrap up here. Oops, not remove spotlight, add spotlights. Got to be able to click the right buttons, add spotlight, and I pulled myself. Okay, who's playing with the spotlight button in the back? Dave's trying to help with the spotlights. There we go. Look at that. Now we're all back up on screen. Excellent. Pull me back up to full screen. And Dan, any closing thoughts from you today? You're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go. I had the one last item. We talked about an easy up or a canopy, and they're incredibly valuable to get out of the weather, whether it's the rain or out here, not so much rain, but we certainly get the sun. And this is one I found. The price varies a lot depending on the color that you choose. But it's a very heavy duty easy up. It's not the $60 Harbor Freight one that will twist up the first gust. I had this out at Baker to Vegas, and it was extremely windy there. And we got hit by a big gust of wind, and it picked up the easy up, and one corner was staked down better than the others. And it pivoted on that corner and hit my truck, and it did not bend. It continued to hold up, and we put the thing back up, and we removed the material, the cloth from it, because the wind just wasn't going to let us keep it there. But it folded up just fine when we went to demobilize, and so pretty good one, a lot less expensive than a name brand easy up, and they offer it in a variety of colors. So if your organization has a particular color, you probably can find something pretty close.
Those are cool because you can get like a double wide. If you look at that 10 by 20 there,
right,
you can get one that's twice as wide, and those are awesome depending on what kind of event you're doing.
Yep. Just curious what the 10 by 20 sells for.
Yeah,
I was really surprised when
$400
easy up for the first time, because I didn't think I was going to use it very much, and I use mine all the time now, especially out here.
Yeah.
Like I thought, these are like superfluous, don't really need them. They're fantastic.
And the thing that's amazing is they go back in the package.
Yeah, right.
Anybody that's tried to put a tent back in the original packaging, they don't all go back easily. These things, you fold them up and slip usually the cover has wheels on it. You slip that back on, and it's nice to have at least two people to do it, but they really work well.
Excellent. David, W0DHG, what kind of closing thoughts do you have for us?
For the holiday, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be useful. And some of the stuff you'll get won't be useful, the socks and the ties and whatever. But, look at your list, check it twice. Bet a lot of stuff that you have around that you don't use often would be useful out in the field. And, just consider it. And again, my big thing is from my scouting days, be prepared. Check it out twice before you go out in the field. No matter what you do, make sure you got the stuff that you need, and if you don't, add to it, and have fun and happy holidays.
Such a great thought there, is make sure that you've got the stuff that you need to make you comfortable, that's going to make you more effective and make you more efficient. So I'm a big fan of trying to keep my gear as organized and as neat and labeled as possible. For me, that's something that really tends to help me once I get out in the field, to make sure I'm able to find the equipment that I need to deploy when I need to deploy it, and to be able to use it. I know a lot of people take different approaches. Sometimes you take the approach of like taking just the absolute minimum. Some of us take the approach of we bring everything in the kitchen sink along with us, because when you're out there, you can't just stop off at the HRO. You can't just have Amazon deliver something to you. So if you don't have it with you, it doesn't exist. So making sure you've got a full complement of all the tools and equipment that you need to both operate and make any repairs in the field is really critical. And for the holidays, hopefully we have given you some ideas to start thinking along those lines as to what kinds of things that should really be on your list. And if you're here inside of the Zoom, hang around for the after party. We're going to open up the mics and want to hear some of the items that you have on your list as well. But if you find the stuff that we're doing helpful, please, by all means, go on to our YouTube channel, like the content. It really helps with making sure that our content gets shown to more folks. If you've not already, subscribe to us on YouTube and on the other channels as well. And if you really find the stuff that we're doing to be helpful, consider going on to WaveTalkers and use that Buy Us a Coffee link to help us keep all this infrastructure up and running and creating new content. Next week is episode number 50. And we're excited to share some more stuff with you next week as well. So until then, we'll say 7-3 to everyone who's joining us out on the live streams. And if you're here inside the Zoom, hang around for the after party. So 7-3, everyone. We'll see you next week.